Hi, my name is Gabby and welcome to my channel, Gabby on Paper. In today's video, we're going to go over my travel budget and how I'm budgeting for my upcoming trip in November. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, we are starting in my main budget that you've seen in previous videos. I'm going to go ahead and close all these category groups and just open the one that travel is in right now. As you can see, travel is in the focus on now category group, and that's because I have a trip coming up in about a month. If I don't have anything to work towards specifically, my travel category will be down in the sinking funds area, and when I'm actively focusing on saving for a specific trip, I'll bring that up to the focus on now. So when the category is up here in this budget, I go ahead and assign money from my paycheck. Like I've done here, I assigned $750 in this category line for the month of October. This money is something that I keep in a separate account, just my Wells Fargo savings account that I don't use for anything else. I just like to keep it separate so I don't get confused in any way. I know exactly how much money I have available for my travel category. So once the money is assigned here, I then go over to my second budget, which is my trips budget. And this is where I do the breakdown of how much I'm spending in each category. So this is the old one for Charlotte, the trip that I went on in September. Cancun is the upcoming trip in November. And these are the categories that I have decided to fund. And now that I'm thinking about it, I actually should have a miscellaneous category on here also. And that would be for random things that come up, like if we run out of sunscreen or need to buy Band-Aids or something like that. If something always comes up, it won't be a big amount, probably just like $50 for my portion. Basically, once the money is assigned in my main budget that you've seen in the previous videos, I then come over here and add that money to my Wells Fargo savings account also. And once again, the money will be up here in the ready to assign area, and I assign it to the different categories. So I'm assigning it in my main budget and I'm assigning it in my travel budget. And these are completely separate budgets, so it doesn't affect it in any way. I could get rid of this one and just work off of my main budget, but I prefer to do it this way. So I've gone through and basically set an amount, like a target amount for each of the categories that I'm funding for the trip. And then when I'm on the trip and I make transactions in those categories, I record all of those transactions here. So you'll see, like if we go into the Charlotte one and go back to September, I spent $167.26 on food, $38.57 in transportation, $41.83 in miscellaneous. All of those transactions were recorded here, but in my main budget, the one we were on just previously, I only have one transaction line, and it's labeled like Charlotte trip or Charlotte travel or something like that, for the total amount that I spent of $247.66, and that's just to keep things a little bit cleaner. I don't know if this is the correct way to do it or if it's the wrong way, but I don't want to have to input transactions in this budget and also in my main budget. It didn't make sense to have to do it twice because that's a lot of work. So all the transactions individually go in here. So you can see here the different amounts that I spend and where. In my main budget, you will only see in the travel category group, you'll see a $247.66 transaction for the entire trip. So I'll do the same for Cancun. I'll keep track of my expenses in this budget and add them in like I normally would. At the end of the trip, once I have the total amount that I spent, I will do one transaction line in my travel category And that's how I record my travel spending. Now, at the end of the trip, as you can see here, so I had budgeted, I want to say it was like $315 or $340 or something for Charlotte, but I don't have any money available. What I did at the end of the trip is I moved all of this money to my ready to assign, and then I started assigning it to my Cancun budget over here. That way all the travel money that I've contributed to my travel sinking fund stays in that sinking fund. I'll do the same thing for Cancun. At the end of the trip, if I have anything left over, I will leave that money in this account. I'll leave the money in this Wells Fargo account. But I think what I'm going to do is delete the targets from these categories and then move the money from here. I'll move it to ready to assign by doing that. I'll just do it right now to show you. And then leave and just let the money build up here. So I'll add transactions to my savings account, let the money build up in my ready to assign, so that when I have another trip and I create a budget for that trip, I can go in and assign the money for each category. So now we'll go in here and plus 130 and just assign all that money because I don't actually want to keep the money in ready to assign right now. So as I'm saving up for my travel sinking fund with no trips in mind, the money will stay in ready to assign. Once I have a trip planned and a budget created for that trip, I will start distributing the money amongst the categories. And then once the trip is over, like up until this video, I had Charlotte hidden. So I'll click on the category and then just hide it. Just because that trip has passed, but I can always reference if I'm going back to Charlotte for the President's Cup next year. Well, I guess it wouldn't be in Charlotte. Let's just say we're going back to Cancun in 2 years. I can come back and reference how much money I spent in Cancun in each of my categories so that I can hopefully create a more accurate budget for the next trip. It's gonna help me plan for future trips, see where I'm at with money, and I think it'll be a good move all around. I don't know, I feel like I kind of got rambly. I had a plan for this video, and then once I started recording, everything just kind of went out the window. So I don't know if I'm making sense. The last thing I kind of wanted to mention is that Charlotte I had funded, before I really started using YNAB, but I wanted to break it down by category just because I had done that myself on a post-it note. And I wanted to keep track and use YNAB, and it was all very exciting. With Cancun, and then with Charlotte, I didn't create any targets. I just funded them because I already had my budget in mind, and all the money has already been saved for, and I was ready to go. For Cancun, I did in fact create categories, as you can see here. October is fully funded with $750, and then November is partially funded. If I click on this, you can see I still need $349.98 to fund the rest of my trip, and that will cover all of my expenses. I actually increased my budget from $1,000 to $1,500 because I decided I didn't want to be struggling trying to keep my, I didn't want to be restricting myself on a vacation that I've been waiting to take for so many years. So I increased my budget by 50%, which is a lot. And honestly, I have no way of really planning out how much I'm going to be spending or what's necessary in each category. I just look at how many days we're there, look up an activity or two to see how much it'll cost, and kind of go based on that. So for food, I budgeted $75 a day times 6 days, which is $450, I believe. Let me do some math on my phone. 75 times 6. yeah, $450. My new goal though, I increased that to $500, and that's in case I don't drink very much, but in case I want like some poolside drinks or beachside drinks or something like that. If something like that were to come up, I want to make sure that I don't feel like restricted in my budget and freely spend, because this is something that we don't do that often. A vacation like this, it doesn't come around that often for us. So for entertainment, originally I had said 270, 300 maybe is what I had said, but I increased that. It looks like if I fund everything, I'll be closer to, let's see, $350, $420. Transportation was originally $50. I increased that to $100. Shopping was originally $220. I increased that to $300. And the shopping is both for like pre-trip shopping and then during the trip. Like if I want to buy a new swimsuit, I was looking at things today. I decided, since obviously it's not summer anymore, stores are selling swimsuits, but they're honestly not that great right now. So I'm gonna go with a cheaper swimsuit from Aerie, and I saw some really cute shoes I could buy. Everything's actually decently cheap because summer is over, so I'm gonna go ahead and like start shopping for this trip because I don't want to miss out on deals, and they're not going to be restocking anytime soon. I'm assuming because it's winter pretty much. It's so cold here in Chicago. But anyways, the hotel, as you can see here, it was only $130, and that's already fully funded. That is because this is only like the resort fee, my half of the resort fee, and I think it's going to be a little bit less. I think I was looking at this, I want to say my half will be like 110 maybe. So I'm a little over budget, but I wasn't sure when I created the budget. So the hotel itself is paid for, the flights are paid for. This is just for spending once we get there. And with how things worked out with the Charlotte budget, I think this is gonna work well. I don't know what other people do for their travel budgets. I've seen people just, break it down in their main budget. I just didn't want to have that many line items like cluttering up my budget. So I decided to create a completely separate one. But let's go back to the main budget, see if there's anything else we want to touch on. I don't really see anything. My priorities right now is also saving for Christmas. I have $666.67 saved. And I've also increased my Christmas budget because I want to make sure I can do activities for my first Christmas in a city. I am so excited. This has literally been a dream of mine for as long as I can remember. I've always wanted to spend Christmas in a city, specifically London and New York, but I think Chicago is going to be a good one. But my Christmas situation is something very similar. I'm going to go over my Christmas budget at a later time, a little closer to the date, and kind of show you like how I'm breaking things down with gifts, stockings, decorations, entertainment, and all that. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't done so already, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. Bye.